And welcome back to Talpeon, the mole seed world. Now, I was originally going to have this episode out a lot sooner than I really wanted it to be. Like, really soon. Like, only a couple, maybe 2 months ago, I wanted episode 3 to be out. But I never got it out. So I'm recording it now. I finally have the time to, and yeah, it's the weekend. I got a lot more time now than on the weekdays. So let's hopefully get this done, shall we? And if y'all hear cars in the background, well, I've recently moved, and there is a road near it, and it is a very busy road. So now, I don't really care. So, yes, Talpeon, the world of moles, is a seed world which was brought by an experiment made by humans in the future to sort of recreate how the diversification of mammals happened over millions and millions of years after, well, the extinction of the dinosaurs. So, how lovely is that? Now, okay. Talpeon has gone through a bit of a change, as this episode takes place around 3 million years after the last episode took place. Maybe even longer than that. So, yeah, 3 million years, or maybe even longer, is quite nice. I don't really have multiple eras planned for Talpeon, but we'll find out, okay? I'm finding out as I go, which is probably not the best, but you know what? That's what I'm doing for this one. And as you can see, the continents have changed a little bit. Morthalis has gotten very much so rivers, which have been breaking off its surface through tectonic activity and other means. Now, the ice caps have also been growing bigger. This could result into an ice age in the future. I don't know. As Talpeon is getting colder. Surt has also been moving very close to Morthalis and may very well collide. Morthalis has a piece of it broken off into the ocean and developing a new landmass, which is sort of a large island, known as Kara. Many other island chains surround Surt, and another continent has broke off. I don't know what to call this one, but for now, I will probably be calling it Lys. And around Lys is the Lys Sea. So, yeah, Talpeon has changed a bit. Also, I'm going to be calling this Talpeon from now on, so have fun with that. So, yeah, it's changed a bit. The continents are moving around, and rivers are growing and growing. I might call this the River Age, which will last who knows how long. Now, as you can see, this is beautiful, and still, most of the animals haven't changed underground, but some life has changed a little bit above ground. What do I mean by this? I mean this. This is a strange type of plant. This plant is actually descendant from the shrubs. These shrub trees have developed and diversified over the comings of millions of years. They are around the size of a small tree and have developed tall branches at the very top of their stalk and developed thick broad leaves and thick wood. This means that maybe future arboreal animals can adapt through these new shrub trees. These are the temperate shrub trees. The temperate shrub trees mainly grow in the temperate northern plains and southern plains. So they are relatively diverse, and you can find them both in Surt and on Morthalis, and basically any other island chain you can find, which is, dare I say it, quite nice. So, yeah, you got shrub trees, which are beautiful, tall trees. And there is another type of shrub tree. The pine shrubs are tall types of pine shrubs. They have developed pine-like needles instead of leaves. They are only found on Morthalis and on the bottom of Lys. They only grow in colder areas because the common shrub trees cannot grow here. So these pine shrubs dominate those areas, developing into forests. They are not very big, also around the size of a small tree, so the forests are not very big, but still, they're forests nonetheless, which will basically lead to many great things in the future. I can't spoil it though, because I have big plans for this project in the future. So yes, we have beautiful shrub trees now diversifying. These are the only 2 types of shrub trees now, but still, they're good trees. And as you can see, they're not the tallest, but yet I'm sure they will get there in the future. I mean, we'll just have to see, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe we can have trees in the future that are hundreds of feet tall. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Which is so nice. Now, basically, this is what the plains now look like. And those trees will just imagine those trees are there as shrub trees, because now we have trees, which is nice. So the plains are very, very vast and beautiful, and originally were almost entirely dominated by the insects. However, in this new age, some moles have started to ditch the safety of the burrows, and instead have now adapted to life above the burrows. Let's go ahead and see some things that have been developing and evolving over on these beautiful plains. This is the hoofle. The hoofle is a strange creature and one of the first moles to fully adapt outside of the burrowing habits and now live a life on land. The hoofles, hence their name, have developed small hoof-like feet. They're not entirely hoof, except they're more like long extended nails on the tips. So they sort of resemble hoofs, but they're not really kind of hoofs. So they're not kind of like a horse, they're more kind of like a deer. These guys are descendants from the schwangalos that lived deep into the burrows and still retain the sort of fur patterns. These creatures sort of resemble mouse deer, Java mouse deer, which I can definitely see the resemblance between these creatures. They live in small little herds within the plains. They can be found on Lys and Morthalis and Kara. They are beautiful, lunging around and feeding on flower petals, grass, wheat, and basically insects and worms. And yes, they, similar to the schwangalos, are very protective over their calves. If you attempt to attack or eat their calves, they will bite you and kick you and gore you. So, if you're really small, because these guys aren't the biggest, they'll still attack you even if you are tall and big. They will attack and bite. So, you probably don't want to get attacked by these guys. It's basically like getting bit and gored by a small deer in a herd, which is kind of bad. So, yeah, the hoofles have been spreading all across the plains, feeding on basically anything. So, I'm sure they'll lead to some beautiful things in the future. I mean, hoofed animals could develop into cow-like creatures, horse-like creatures, and giraffe-like creatures. Maybe even something else. Who knows? So, we'll just have to see how these guys adapt and evolve over the future. This guy is also a creature that has developed and evolved out of the burrows, even though they still dig ditches for themselves and their infants. These creatures are called coals. Coals are a small cat badger-like creature. And even though they still don't live underneath the burrows, they still dig ditches for themselves. These creatures, of course, since they sort of resemble cats, or wild cats, mixed with the badger in a sort of way. Coals are descendants of the scurro rat down in the deep norths of the burrows. They, well, have developed feline-like traits and developed recurved claws, so they sort of scamble up branches, but they don't really do that much. They only do it in order to escape predators. But then they'll scurry back down and go hide in the burrows. Yes, they still dig burrows, but they still live in a more outside life, similar to some species of maybe even meerkats, which they do not really look like. They more look like cats. Now, these creatures primarily feed on insects, and sometimes even wheat and plants. That's their main diet. However, sometimes they'll occasionally feed on carrion, which is the decomposing bodies of other animals. So, any dead hoofles out there will definitely be scavenged by these small little guys, with sharp claws and thick incisors. They probably won't eat a live hoofle. However, if a small baby hoofle gets separated from the herd, if with any means, they might attempt it. However, if they do kill it, they'll probably have to hide that baby somewhere very, very safe. And even if they do, their mama will probably track them down. However, if they manage to hide it and cover up their scent, they might get away with it. This time. Which, yeah, maybe these small scavenger feline creatures could adapt into giant cat-like creatures, or maybe even something else, badger-like creatures, as they do look like a mix of the two. Who knows, you know? I mean, it's a crazy world out there. But both the hoofles and the coal have to worry about the lurgery predator, or the apex predator on these plains. This is the split-faced mole. The split-faced mole has developed a splitting face. Who would have thought? The nose tentacles on their original star-nosed ancestors, which were the squid-faced moles, have fused into the whole lower mouth. They split open, kind of like Demogorgon style. And inside the mass of the tendrils is the mouth, which is sharp canine teeth designed for tearing through flesh. And on the tips of the tentacles are sharp spines made of bone that will be very painful when they latch onto you to hold you down as they eat you. They also developed large claws in order to hold down prey and dig through them. They also dig ditches for their pups and loved ones, similar to the coals, but, you know, it's very nice. These creatures actually have another type of morph. Well, we'll talk about that morph here in a second. But first, the hoofles need to watch out because they are the main prey of the split-faced mole. So, kind of like how cheetahs primarily feed on gazelle and antelope and stuff like that, that's pretty much what's happening here. So, that's quite nice for the hoofles, I'm sure. Now, like I was saying, these creatures have another morph. While these creatures mainly spend their time during the day hunting for the hoofles, as they're not nocturnal, they do have a type morph that is nocturnal. These morphs usually have larger eyes and smaller ears, and developed a darker reddish-brownish color to blend in with the darkness of the night, which is a bit strange. This is similar to how some foxes are red and some foxes are gray. They are maybe two different, so these guys basically are similar. They have developed into two different types. One with red fur, dark maroonish fur with large eyes to see in night, and another one with gray fur and smaller eyes. So, who knows, maybe these two types of the split-faced mole may develop two different evolutionary paths in the future. Who knows, you know? And yeah, the split-faced mole are very similar to foxes. But this guy right here, he doesn't care about the split-faced mole or his strange maroon cousin. This is the snake mole. The snake mole has developed a long body with fur coating it. These guys very much so resemble the weasels or ferrets. These guys also mainly feed on bants and their honey and the larvae, and that is almost entirely their main diet. However, the other small insects and invertebrates, they'll eat worms and maybe even small little crickets whenever they get the opportunity. Now, similar to a honey badger, they do not care. They will fight any split-faced mole that attempts to attack them, slicing them with their claws and biting them with their sharp incisors. Their claws are actually relatively sharp in order to break through the hives and dig through the thick dirt of bants. So it probably won't feel too pleasant to get attacked by this slender creature. And they will not give up. No matter how many bite marks or slash marks they get, they will continue to attack and bite. So that's pretty nice. You got a snake badger, which is sweet. Yep, similar to these badgers. They don't look the same, except for on the face a little bit. But yes, they are very, very similar to a honey badger. Even in diet, which is honey. Who would have guessed? So, yeah. You got long badger snakes that feed on ant bees and will fight off mole foxes. Talpeon is a very, very beautiful world. Can I say that? So, yeah, if you ever stumble upon one of these guys feeding on a hive of bants and their honey, it's probably best to not attempt to aggravate them or approach them, as you might have to get a prosthetic face afterwards. I'm just saying. And now we move over to a new biome located around these acres and acres of land, mainly Morthalis. The beautiful, beautiful rivers. These giant rivers are vast and long and can stretch miles, and they're very, very deep. So, what wonders live in these deep, deep rivers? A couple creatures, actually. What kind of creatures? Well, let's talk about them. This is the river mole. The river mole is a very strange and very cute creature. They are also descendants of the skura rat and have developed into a semi-aquatic-like life. They resemble otters and are just as cute as the said otter. They swim throughout the water, mainly feeding on freshwater krill and smaller animals like that. They also feed on algae and seagrass, so they're very nice. Similar to otters, they will hold hands when out sleeping, in order to not drift away from the thick, raging rivers. They will also mainly beach on land in order to just lazily lounge about. They like to play with each other. They are very sociable, living in small little packs. These packs can go and attack great schools of freshwater krill and eat them. So, yes, if you're ever in the rivers of Morthalis, you may very well find these cute otter-like critters swimming about, feeding on crustaceans and algae and seagrass. So, yeah, they're quite sweet. It's very, very cute. Now, krill. Krill have mainly made the same, and they mainly live in saltwater biomes. However, some krill and Talpeon have developed in order to escape the rages of the octopus out in the oceans. Some have started to adapt into fresh water, and slowly over time have developed into the main prey for these guys, freshwater krill. So, what could freshwater krill be like? This is the freshwater krill. The freshwater krill hasn't really changed much from a normal krill. They may be a little bigger, around the size of a normal shrimp, but other than that, they are not changed. They only feed on algae and seagrass, making them herbivores, and even sometimes get algae stuck on their shells, which acts as a sort of camouflage. Similar to krill, they live in great schools. You can almost entirely find these guys in thick bunches in the thick, deeper rivers. And they only go up to shallower rivers in order to spawn, like a salmon. These krill, nothing much is to say about them. They have sharp, pointed noses in order to brawl with inside of the shimmering school that these guys live in. But other than that, they're just a freshwater krill. So, yeah, if you go on the rivers, you will very much of Morthalis primarily. However, some of them live in the Lys part, and sometimes even in the rivers of Surt. You can probably find these guys just swimming about and just living, yeah. That's nice. So, yes, beautiful little brown krill that live in freshwater environments. That's nice. But they're often preyed upon by these guys. This is the sword krill. The sword krill is one of the largest krill on Talpeon yet, and they are terrifying predators. These creatures are similar to, swordfish, and that they use the sharp barb on their head to stab into prey to kill them. So, yes. And these guys hunt primarily the freshwater krill. However, they will also hunt river moles. They are way bigger than a river mole and will very well stab them and kill them and eat them. They live in packs of about 6 individuals, which is all you really need. And sometimes they'll go on their lonesome to hunt small river moles, which is quite sad. As you can see, sometimes river moles impaled by these terrifying krill. These krill are so large that if they were to swim with enough force, they could pierce and impale your leg. And that's how big these krill are. They're the largest krill yet, and are very much so the most terrifying, developing a thick dorsal fin in order to swim and steer like a shark or maybe even an orca. So yes, these are by far one of the most terrifying and predatory krill Talpeon has ever seen yet. And their descendants may very well be even scarier. So, yes, these river moles may very well be preyed upon by these terrifying sword krill. How painful would that be? So, basically, if a swordfish and a krill had a baby, which is not possible, it would probably be this creature. So, yeah, at least you have that, which is quite nice. So, if you're ever swimming in the rivers, make sure you watch out and be sure not to get stabbed by these guys, as it could very well result in death. So, yeah, beautiful sword krill, river krill, and little otters like moles that swim throughout thick rivers. So, yeah, that's very nice of the rivers. Now, moving back into the plains, in the plains, we haven't discussed all of the creatures yet. We've discussed the moles, but now it's time to discuss some invertebrates, shall we? Moving in, we have the dirt cricket. The dirt cricket is the descendant of the common cricket that oftentimes lived in these fields. They are kind of the same as a normal cricket, except they are brown and developed glistening speckles on their exoskeleton that resemble dirt and small little patches of rock or lighter patches of dirt in the dirt. They've also developed a green belly that resembles grass. So, they're basically just a cricket that likes to spend their time in the dirt, so much so that they have adapted to resemble dirt. So, yeah, nothing much is to really say about the dirt cricket, except they're just a dirt cricket. The dirt crickets also like to sometimes burrow into the dirt like a normal cricket and hide underneath rocks. So if you flip over a rock or peel peel back a patch of moss or something, you may very well find a dirt cricket just living its best life under there. So, yeah. But, okay. They may have developed a dirt-like pattern in order to escape from moles, as there have been a recent amount of land moles, like snake moles and hoofles, and even coals, that may very well pick them off regularly. But they've also developed this brown pattern in order to hide from another predator. What would that predator be? This. This is the tusked cricket. The tusked cricket, hence its name, has developed sharp tusks around its head. These tusks are used to impale the belly and exoskeleton of any dirt cricket or any normal cricket that they laid their compound eyes upon. And once they do, they will stab them and gore them and hold them down with their claws. And once they're finally dead, they will then begin to feed. They almost entirely feed upon the dirt crickets and have developed green patterns and brown bellies in order to blend in with grass and dirt. You can often find these guys slowly searching for many dirt crickets that live in the thick underbrush of the grassy plains. So yeah, you have elegant, tusked crickets, which are not cool at all. They're actually kind of cool. I would have one as a pet. But yeah, you have tusked crickets and small dirt crickets that are the first cricket evolution on Talpeon yet. Their descendants will probably be a little cool. Who knows, you know? So yeah, that's pretty, isn't it? Now slowly lunging through the grass and dirt is a relatively large bee. These bees are actually flightless, similar to bants. However, they haven't de-evolved their wings. But they instead use their wings to communication. But first, let's talk about their name. Their name is the beetle. The beetle is a very strange creature's name, but these guys sort of resemble many types of beetles with a similar body structure. They have a very powerful venom that is very well the most powerful in Talpeon, and have developed basically to be able to just stab and venomize you pretty good. Now, back to the wings. Since they are flightless, what are the wings for? What is it for? Well, it's mainly for communication. Now, they buzz, a violent buzz, in order to scare off predators that may very well attack them. To also say that they are very, very venomous, and I will sting you, so do not approach me. This is what it sounds like. So yeah, would you approach a giant beetle bee that is buzzing like this and flaring its stinger at you? Probably not, because most of people out there are scared of bees. I'm not really scared of bees, but if they are flying towards me, yes, I will be scared of bees. Okay? These guys are also eusocial, living in thick hives that are mainly constructed out of twigs and thick dirt and grass. They oftentimes go to war with bants, because bants are also a ground-dwelling bee. Bants already have wars with each other, like ants, but now they're going to war with these giant beetles. So, yes, it is just constant war for these bees, guys. Just constant war for bees on the ground. So, yes, the beetles are a large and very interesting kind of beetle. So, yeah, it's quite nice for the bees. Now, in the skies above the plains, there are also many forms of flying organisms. The skies are predominantly dominated by bees. So let's go ahead and look at some of the bees' descendants up in the sky. This is the terrifying hawk bee. These hawk bees are very, very terrifying. They are a very large kind of bee. They don't really have multiple stripe patterns on their body, but they've still retained the sort of yellowish filaments, and buzzing wings. They don't actually have that strong of a venom, but they do have a very long stinger. And what's interesting, and a very common associated trait among bees, is that when they sting you, they lose their stinger, and they cannot, they die, because it removes some of their organs and tears open their abdomen. These guys, though, are similar to many types of, like, wasps or hornets, and they look very similar, too, in that they do not lose their stinger when they sting you. So they can just constantly begin stinging you and just attacking you. So, yeah, that's very nice. They mainly build their hives among shrub trees, which is the best place to soar through. They also do not pollinate flowers. Beetles, at least, did pollinate flowers. Somewhat. They did pollinate the flowers, but these guys do not pollinate the flowers. They just kill and bring back stuff for their hive, turning the flesh into a sort of honey. It's horrible, but that's what they do. It's kind of like flesh bees in a bit. So yes, very terrifying little bees that you can often be found soaring through the skies. Not very fun for many people who are scared of bees. If you are very scared of bees, do not go to Talpeon. You will probably die from a heart attack, because there's bees out there that are the size of small birds. Now, at night, there are not too much creatures out. Maybe a couple coals out and about, because coals are semi-nocturnal-ish, and will sometimes come out at night to look for food. However, most animals are asleep. However, one is not asleep. What could that be? Oh, it's this guy. This guy, which is sort of hard to see, but this guy right here, this is the blood moth. The blood moth is the first descendant of moths on Talpeon. They have developed speckled pattern wings in order to blend in with the night sky as they soar through it. They mainly feed on animals that are sleeping and have developed smelling, like they can smell your blood. And that's nice. And once they smell your blood, they're going to stab you and begin to drink your blood, which makes these creatures sort of like mosquitoes in a way. Except if you gave a mosquito moth wings. And that's just basically what these guys are. They're mosquitoes with moth wings. So, nothing much is to really say about them. Their caterpillars feed on grass and leaves, but these guys feed on blood. Man, it's crazy, bro. Talk about new year, new me. What? Alright, so yes, you have mosquito butterflies, which is quite nice, you know? And, yeah. So, that brings us to the end of the video. Now, here's the size comparison of all the animals we've been talking about today. I told you that sword krill is going to be massive. Now, besides the sword krill, not many creatures have developed to be too large. However, they are going to get larger. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about how moles slowly adapt and evolve to overcome the burrows, and slowly evolving into creatures that could be similar to Earth, or they could be not. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day. Oh, and also, make sure to read the description. I've got a link to a certain channel that helped make the thumbnail, which is very beautiful. And, yeah, with that out of the way, have an awesome day, and have a good Thanksgiving! Oh, wait, Thanksgiving is only a couple days away. Have an early Thanksgiving. Shut